What is up? Happy Friday. JD Gagnon here. Good friend Kiara. What's going on?
It's FU Friday. It's my favorite day of the week.
FU Friday. So just for people that haven't tuned in before, what is FU Friday, Kiara?
FU Friday is when we take all the FUD from the week, all the things that have been super major, and we debunk it, or we just talk about people who are outside of the actual crypto space who are super funny and telling us to go FUD ourselves. But FU Friday is my favorite because it's kind of, during the rest of the week, we have our critical thought lens where I'm like, stay very stable and think kindly about their perspective and where they're coming from. And on Friday, I'm like, fuck you, that's stupid, I don't care.
That's dumb. We don't like it. All right, so we've got a few things today that popped up that are pretty fuddy and kind of baseless. So let's talk about that. First, we will start with the battle against fiat currency.
Against fiat currency.
Yeah. So the Bank of International.
We lost. Crypto lost. That's the headline.
So the Bank for International Settlements has some guy that's leading it, and of course, they are the incumbents that obviously care a lot about fiat. Who knew? And so any chance they get whenever crypto, has some regulatory issues or the markets or something happens, all of these guys get on their little soapbox and tell everybody how crypto's dead and, fiat is going to win and digital currencies will never work, et cetera, et cetera. Some nonsense, I think. Crypto's not dead.
I posted a video if you want to take a look. I didn't watch it though, so this isn't vetted.
All right, let's watch it. We'll see. We'll see how funny it is. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen gradually. Unless it chooses that I can't do that, which maybe is the case. Oh no.
Oh no.
Okay, no, I got it. We're doing it.
All right, let's do it.
Ready? So this is Augustine. And he says that we've lost. He says crypto's lost.
Yeah, he's the CIO or something of Bank of International Settlements, right?
Chief on crypto.
All right, let's see what he says.
The future monetary system.
I can't. I don't have a Bloomberg subscription.
Damn it. Okay, well. Anyways,
he says that technology does not make for trusted money, which is hilarious to me because money is based in technology. Even fiat physical currency that you have, it's not gold. We're not bartering.
No, and I mean it's interesting because the technology of crypto, to anybody that has even a remote clue, brings a lot more transparency and trust. That's the whole concept of trustless access to things and the immutable nature of blockchains is there's a ton of trust and you can see everything that happens on the chain. If there's issues, where money has gone, where it came from, who it came from, sort of. Generally the wallet it came from. And at some point, there's probably going to be some KYC requirements at some point in the process. But even right now, you can't get money in or out of crypto in any meaningful size without KYC. So,
and you know what you're getting. Yes, there's scams and things go up and down, but I don't get paid in goats and those goats don't get sick. So technology is money.
Right. And I mean, we in this day and age, everything is so global. Even bank transfers, how many people carry meaningful amounts of cash around? I mean, unless you're a small-time drug dealer or something, there's other ways of
I was gonna say it is Friday. You don't know what I do on the weekend.
That's right. Oh, I don't know what you do on the weekend. But is that why you have all those ones all the time? Oh wait, you're in Canada. Fives. You have all those fives all the time.
All those loonies that I'm shilling.
Yeah.
So he has always been, I took a quick look at who this Augustine dude is because I wasn't that familiar. He's always been super anti-crypto. So I found some articles going all the way back to 2017, 2018, where he's claiming that $550 billion have left cryptocurrency, that it's not efficient, that it's not legal, and that it's basically a Ponzi scheme, and everybody who's part of it is in an idiot bubble. So I'm not surprised that he's still mad about crypto.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that this fuddy sentiment. So we have two elements of sentiment, right? This week we talked about positive regulation in Hong Kong, negative regulation in Canada. neutral regulation in America. So we were looking and seeing that institutions have really high sentiment now, right? We had Microsoft made a deal, PayPal made a deal, Amazon made a deal. It's going really well, and sentiment's increasing. We're seeing more activity on Twitter, and I wonder if this is fear tactic to not lose relevance as fiat currency, or is this someone who really doesn't know and is afraid of it themselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be some, self-preservation also. To think that there's not going to need to be some version of Bank of International Settlements at some point in the future. Well, there might not need to be. There might be smart contract structures that do what the Bank of International Settlements does. So it may make them redundant. And for that reason, obviously, he has a vested interest in crypto not succeeding. But I think you see that from a lot of other incumbents. You look at, the Federal Reserve in the US and Department of Treasury and many other developed nations, and they all seem to have all this doom and gloom to say about crypto. Now, do I think crypto is ready right now, today, to replace fiat? No, I don't believe so. It's still not quite efficient enough, and we still haven't abstracted enough of the complexity away from the user. And there is a lot of user experience that we still have to work on. I mean, this is kind of a drum that we beat on all the time, not just me, but everybody. And so there's some work to do still, absolutely. And I think, for a fairly novel space, I mean, we had a total market cap of crypto. Currently, it's less than Apple, which is kind of insane. That the entire crypto market is less than Apple, which is nuts. So here's a funny thought. What about, there's a lot of talk right now about real world assets coming on chain. Imagine if just Apple stock became digitized and was on the blockchain. And I say this because there are companies that are actually digitizing Apple stock and Tesla stock and other large institutions. And all of a sudden that totally changes the global dynamic of access to these companies and to all of this infrastructure that many people don't have. So there's a lot of great things happening, but we're still novel, right? Like, it's still a novel space, as evidenced by 2022. Crappy stuff still happens, and global regulators are trying to figure out, where's the middle ground? How do we protect consumers while at the same time allowing innovation and fostering innovation? Some places are getting it right. Some places maybe not so much, but hopefully in the end, everybody gets it together. The counter argument to this from the Bank of International Settlements, we had another article, the head of OTC options trading at Kraken said that interest in staking products and crypto in general from their institutional clients and retail clients is strong, is increasing and remains strong. And that's pretty interesting. And it's both proof of work and proof of stake networks that people have a general interest in. And I think as long as there's positive economic value, you're going to see participation. But when you see stuff like this coming from these large international institutions, you have to take some of this with a grain of salt. Of course, Kraken is going to oversell how excited people are about crypto because they're a crypto business. No shit. And of course, the Bank of International Settlements is going to oversell how awesome fiat is and, probably over-index to the problems of crypto that exists today. There's the truth is generally somewhere in the middle. But I think, as far as I can see, sentiment is definitely not doom and gloom negative anymore. I wouldn't say that everybody's ready to mortgage their house to throw it into crypto. I would really strongly advise not doing that. But there's definitely some interest. And I think I was on an AMA with Jesus Rodriguez from Into the Block yesterday. And, I think what's really interesting is just the level of sophistication that, that people and institutions can bring into this space now. And there's so many more methods of risk management than there ever has been. And that's also promising for adoption and sentiment and so on. People meaningfully are picking up, and the space is growing. The space is providing these resources, risk management structures, hedging strategies, a lot more sophisticated financial products are starting to evolve on chain now because A, the chains have evolved to the point where they can handle them. But B, developers have found, fairly robust ways to deploy these products. Super exciting. Obviously, I'm a little biased, of course. Take what I say with a little bias, the same way you would take what Kraken says. I make my living and spend my life in in this space. So
Absolutely.
obviously I'm biased. Anyways, what else we got?
One thing I wanted to say about that more, if it, because we have time. It's Friday.
Yeah.
We have all the time.
We have all day.
People who are bullish on crypto are watching the news that is coming out of CoinDesk. So we got Miss Chow from Kraken was talking about OTC trading. That was on CoinDesk. And it's a pretty high production value now. There's 4 different people. 3 of them are at news desks. And then she's at her desk just like you and I are. And that's something that crypto people are used to seeing. We go onto CoinDesk and we watch somebody we know talk about something we know about. And it is not weird to us that she's working from home and not in a studio. But if I showed something like that to someone who isn't really into crypto, they're wondering why she hasn't gone to the TV studio and is being actively interviewed. Whereas when we watch Augustine, he's obviously in studio. I think it was an NBC show or something. And that got put on Bloomberg. But he's obviously in studio. And this is a little bit of that old world, the news is always right, lack of critical thinking, where we ran into a lot of fake news, because anybody can now put a ticker bar up. Right? I do it every day. I put a ticker bar on the bottom of this. Anybody can make something look like a real news show. So now you're thinking not only what is my critical thinking, but also does production value impact the information that I think I'm getting? And does familiarity impact the information that I think I'm getting? And I bring that up because if you know what BIS already is and you see that article from Augustine, you're like, oh, well, they know. I've already picked them as a thought leader in my mind, right? And if you already know who Kraken is, then you're going to believe this thing too. Whereas if you enter this as a fully blank slate, like how do you select which one has the legitimacy, right?
I think they're and this is like a bit of a sign of changing of the times, I think. But because of the proliferation of social and many news outlets now lean heavily on kind of citizen journalism or individuals taking videos and capturing moments all over. There's some amazing byproducts of that. Obviously, we're much more aware of what's going on globally. But the flip side is we have like a really skewed perception of how bad things really are. Like generally you see only the hyper bad on the news or the hyper good. And because there's so much news now, everything has to be over kind of romanticized, right? If it's something that you should be scared of, it's probably going to end the world tomorrow. If it's something you should be excited about, it's the biggest miracle we've ever seen. Greatest thing that's ever happened. And I think, that kind of plays into that bias where people say, hey, JD and Kiara are sitting, in their home offices talking about this stuff. I mean, are we, authorities on most of this subject? Probably as much or more so than pretty much anybody else that talks about it,
Exactly.
including major news and major business networks. There are some people that get on, MSNBC and all of these business channels. John Woo from Avalabs is on them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about, crypto in general, talking about tech adoption and some of the innovations that are happening. But, there used to be such little bias in mainstream media. Like it used to be unbiased journalism where it was just about reporting facts and letting people decide. But again, because of the proliferation of citizen journalism, now it's all about attention. It's attention seeking. How crazy can we make this shit?
Right?
Yeah. Like how crazy can we make this shit sound so that people want to pay attention to us?
Well, even this one with Augustine, I'm like, I didn't know we were in a battle against fiat currency. Like I didn't wake up in the morning and put my chainmail bikini on, I guess I should.
So you're not wearing the bulletproof vest and carrying the AK?
Well, now that I know we're going to war, I guess I should amp up.
Better not be going to war. I mean, that's a scary thought too. But I don't want to start World War III FUD. But that's like.
Sorry, I meant in crypto. I didn't mean it.
Oh, well, in the real world too, it's a little kind of crazy at the moment. And again, I'm definitely not an authority on politics and geopolitics, but some weird shit going on globally, and it feels like we're all just kind of ignoring it. But like we are about this close to something quite catastrophic happening somewhere in the world, whether it's, America or others, or somewhere in Europe or even Ukraine. Like all it would take is one poor decision to press a button and countries are wiped off the map, like actually. So I don't know. Anyways, let's not get too deep down that rabbit hole.
We're doing FU Friday, not
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
actual
Fuck,
FUD, JD.
fuck you, fudders. So anyways, a couple other pieces of FUD that came out today that we can kind of chat about quickly before we let everybody go for the weekend. But the first one is Federal Reserve. They have kind of their inflation calculations, and based on whatever inflation is at the time and the trajectory of inflation, then they have like an interest rate suggestion. And to make a long story short, they've come out now today, of course, saying that inflation, in fact, is requiring more interest rate hikes. And all the news outlets are picking this up and sensationalizing it. But if you read down in the article, they're expecting maybe a 0.25, a quarter point increase, which is what anybody that's been talking about this for the last number of months has also been predicting for Q1. So, I mean, we're seeing this sensationalized a lot. I mean, yeah, inflation, to back that up, there was some inflation numbers, personal consumption expenditure came out, I believe yesterday or today, this morning. And we're still at a 5.4% year over year. And that's not ideal. that's well beyond the target inflation. And, so that there is some truth to this. Like we are not out of the woods yet. I'm not sure if it's signaling, holy shit, let's panic. And I think the market is, generally speaking, not financial advice, but I think the market has like kind of priced in some of that insecurity. Like we're not really sure, but it's not surprising to anybody that's paying attention that there's probably going to be more rate hikes, and there's probably, a pivot is just stopping hiking, or at least slowing the rate of hiking. Eventually we want to see declining rates, but I mean, nobody expects that to happen in the immediate near term, of course, especially now with inflation the way it is. But it's interesting to watch how markets respond, right? So we saw that news came out, and then the market essentially dumped 3 or 4% across the board today, which is, again, the sensationalism around some of this stuff, and the people just react so nonsensically, I think. But that's the reality we live in. So we have to expect some of that when we see some of this news. So just because we don't necessarily believe the news, some shit might happen, whether it's warranted or not.
Well, remember that other people believe the news, right?
Yeah.
When you see these things, there are, even if you can keep a cool head about it and you're thinking critically about it and you're being reasonable about it and you can remove your own biases and so on and so forth, and you don't make an emotive decision, that doesn't mean no one else did.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing.
About who the players are and how much they might impact you too.
Well, yeah, and that's what leads to a lot of this. I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about some exciting stuff that's going on, but there's, Coinbase came out yesterday. Of course, we talked about this yesterday with a pretty good splash. Everybody was kind of excited about Base and what, this L2 means. And there's still a lot of questions, I think, that remain to be answered. But it's really positive. You see one of the largest companies in the space, probably the most trusted, probably the one company that has enough firepower to, influence, if litigation is required, to influence policy, or at least have a meaningful conversation via the courts, where the rest of us just don't have the resources to meaningfully protest, some unfair treatment. So I personally am quite excited to see, what comes of this. I think it's signaling some evolution in the space and some innovation. But the reason I'm bringing this up is yesterday there was a lot of excitement. Coinbase is doing this. Heck yeah, like really cool shit. And then essentially the 12 to 18 hours that followed yesterday, like overnight and into today, everybody's just been shitting on it, like completely. Oh, this is going to be horrible. It's going to be a permission chain, blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of it is actually incorrect information, but the FUD has started. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that ends up. I mean, the test net's out there. Coinbase is not stupid, and no, of course they're not stupid, but to think that they would come out publicly with something like this without being quite confident, A, in their technology, and B, in their standing with regulators based on said technology. So it'll be really interesting because it should signal to us, to the space as a whole, over the first few months of Base being available, just how the regulators are going to look at this, because it's a new meaningful development with a bit more of an eye on compliance and regulation. So should be interesting. But the FUD is strong today. There is a lot of people, a lot of decentralization maximalists, because Base's intention is to have as much decentralization as possible, which is obviously important. But there's the simple fact that you must have certain compliance structures in place and certain controls. There will have to be invariably some centralization in this just to maintain that. So the centralization, though, here is just on the fringes relative to like centralized exchanges where only the money in and then the money out has anything to do with the blockchain, and everything else happens in this kind of black hole of trust, which, as we've seen over the last decade, that trust can be broken. And very often these large institutions are run by people that have no business running large institutions. It's getting better. A lot of the remaining institutions now are quite sophisticated, Coinbase being one of them. So yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see how it goes. But that's been a huge thing. Like my crypto Twitter feed has been blowing up with people shitting on.
Mine is too, but I haven't seen anyone clever enough to say Base is baseless yet.
Holy shit!
I've been waiting for it. I don't want to do it. Like I don't know.
Are we going to end today on Base is baseless? That's hilarious. But I do enjoy how their stock is called Coin and their L2 is called Base. Yeah. And if there is a token for said L2, which speculation is already going, that would be cool to have Coin stock Base token. Anyways, pretty interesting. I think it'll be good for the space over the next few months just to see how this evolves, especially for builders and participants in the US. Okay,
so last thing for FU Friday.
Yeah.
Are you excited for ETH Denver?
Yeah, pretty excited. I moved out of Canada to get away from snow and cold, and I'm not super pumped about the temperature in Denver at the moment. But we'll see. It should be fun.
FedEx you a toque? Like, what do you mean?
But what's also funny? Toque is like a very regional thing. Like no one here knows what the hell a toque is. Yeah. Even in certain parts of Canada, they don't know. They just call them beanies or hats. Like Ontario, etc., Vancouver. Like toque is like a very prairie province thing. But I have a bunch. So
okay. And you're wearing a bunny hug, so you're good there.
Right now I am. Generally I just wear, dress clothes at these things. So collared shirt, jacket, pants. It's gonna be freezing. I've got a pretty warm bomber jacket, so I think I might dress down a little bit for this one. Not wear as many blazers and stuff, but have the jackets on. We'll see. Anyways, yeah, it should be fun. It should be a lot of fun. Anybody that's in, if you're watching this and you see us in Denver, come say hi. We'll be walking around, doing the thing. We're going to throw axes one day. It's going to be awesome. Going to a shooting range one day. There's a lot of really interesting events.
Just weaponizing. This is actually just the ETH army.
Yeah, everybody's just going to get all their aggression out. All right, we're going to throw axes, shoot shit. But it should be pretty fun. There's a lot of people going. So, if you're there, come say hi. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next week. We're going to do go fudge yourself. We're going to do some live, possibly on locations next week, and maybe have a friend or two join us just to round it out. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Same time every day next week. We will do our best to bring interesting episodes to you. So anyways, Kiara, have a beautiful weekend. Everybody that's watching, have a beautiful weekend. We'll see you all.